Okay, so I've decided to do a video on corset measurements because there's been some confusion between where everything's measured from, what everything means. So I thought I'd clear it all up and point everything out. So I've taken to myself with a texter, drawn a few lines. They aren't exactly straight, but hopefully I can clear things up. So, these are supposed to be straight. So this is your low hip measurement. It's the widest point of your hip. And usually it sits just above the jean line. So obviously you don't want to buy a corset that sits on your jean line, because if you try and tight lace this with your jeans underneath, that's not comfortable. This is the high hip, so that's at the top of the iliac crest, which is right there. So you can see top of the hip. And then the waist is usually measured one of two ways. It's recommended to be measured halfway between the underbust and the low hip, especially when looking at OTRs, because it's usually centered. In that case, it kind of goes at about there for me. Although some people tend to measure it around the belly button. So if you did that, you can see that that's not my true waist. My true waist is actually higher. Now I've just marked here where some of my ribs are, just to show you that when I tight lace and pull in, I'm actually pulling in underneath my ribs and just above my belly button. So I generally squish in there. So that proves problematic for me because the distance here and the distance here aren't exactly equal. I'm quite high and boxy in the ribs, and then I spread out in the hips. So this little bit of curve that I actually have is from my corsets, and I used to just be straight down and then come out. That proved problematic because the corsets that I was buying were fitted for large, small, large, so I'd have this gap at the front here. If you're a larger busted lady, that can also cause problems because your bra will slip into it and stuff like that. So really try and pay attention to what type of body shape you are. Even if it is subtle, it does affect. So I'd be more of a conical, my ribs are conical. I'm more of an hourglass now, but I was boxy to start off with. So I had a lot of trouble fitting my corsets. Feel free to ask me for advice or check out the Tight Lacing Society on Facebook. There's plenty of people on there who'll help you out as well. So yeah, I just wanted to point out clearly, low hip, high hip, waist is the smallest part, usually halfway between here and here. Be careful of where your ribs are. You can train your lower ribs over time. You can't move anything in the top. So this is all going to stay here no matter what I do. These I can taper. So just be aware of what you're buying, how it affects you, the shape of your body, and where these measurements are going to lie on you. A test for the length is to sit down and then take the measurement from the underbust to your lap. That way you get an accurate measurement of the shortest that your body is, so that when you sit down you don't have a corset that digs into your pelvis or lifts your breasts up into your chin. Hopefully that's helpful. So underbust, waist, high hip, low hip. Thanks guys.